Certainly you know that there is a gene for Alzheimer's disease that can be inherited. So if you have Alzheimer's in your family, there is a chance that you have the gene. But what are the chances that you have it? ApoE4 allele gene is the name of the gene that is responsible that Alzheimer's is inherited. A visit to your doctor's office will look like this. Once you have the gene, he will tell you that you are in a high risk group. It is all genetics, and most likely you will get Alzheimer's disease sooner or later. Are you really doomed to get the disease sooner or later? Or are there things you can do to avoid it? Let's have a closer look at the facts and the real possibilities you have. If you have the gene from one parent, then your risk of getting Alzheimer's is 3 times as high as someone who does not have the gene at all. So from one parent, you have 3 times the risk. If you have the gene from both parents, then your risk of getting Alzheimer's is 10 to 15 times as high as someone who does not have the gene. This is quite significant. But is there nothing you can do? What kind of genes do we know? Basically, there exist 2 different kinds of genes. The ones you cannot change, for example, the color of your eyes, the color of your hair, your height and more. But there are also the ones you can change, for example, obesity or diabetes. Well, we know today that there are hundreds of genes dormant inside of you, inside of everyone. These genes are just waiting to be activated. And this activation is mostly done through lifestyle changes. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're into running marathon and you train 5 times per week to get to the finish line within 3.5 hours. This training alone would trigger so many dormant genes and burn so many calories that it would be basically impossible to weigh 250 pounds. Your body would act in its best interest. It would tell to itself, this guy is running now all the time so long, 5 times a week, and I cannot keep this weight. I have to shed the pounds in order to fulfill this heavy duty. So your own body would adapt to the lifestyle changes you have made, and there would be no way you could stay at 250 pounds. Fortunately, it turns out that Alzheimer's disease belongs to the category of genes which you can change. The Chicago Health and Aging Project. This is an observational study that clearly demonstrated that there are certain things you can do to stay mentally fit as you age. Thousands of people were observed to find a correlation between what they were eating and how they stayed mentally clear as time went by. One factor that stood out was bad fats. Bad fats made a huge impact. As bad fats, we consider here saturated fats and trans fats. Trans fats are the ones used quite often in fast food restaurants and in baking goods. Saturated fats we find mostly in animal products like milk, cheese, meat, eggs, and so on. What they found out in this study was the more saturated fats people ate, the more advanced their cognitive decline over time was. A daily intake of 13 grams of saturated fat compared to 25 grams of saturated fat made a huge difference. It resulted in 3 times more Alzheimer's disease. To give you an idea how much 25 grams of saturated fat is, well, it is 2 eggs, 1 piece of bacon, 1 chicken thigh skinless, 1 cup of whole milk, 1 small pizza for one. Eating this way, you have just consumed 25 grams of saturated fat. How about mild cognitive impairment? Mild cognitive impairment is a kind of situation where a word is suddenly missing, or one meets a person and cannot recall his name, even you are very familiar with him. It is not Alzheimer's, but here and there some lapses in memory. With this, we got exactly the same results in another study. A Finnish study observed 1,341 adults at around 50 years of age and tracked their eating habits for 21 years. The result was higher saturated fat intake created much higher cognitive problems. And this study even tracked people who had the gene ApoE4 allele, also called as the Alzheimer gene. There was a huge difference in people who had the Alzheimer genes. The people who had the Alzheimer gene and had less bad fat were not affected by cognitive decline at all. And that is really good news for all those people who are living with the gene. How about trans fats? Exactly the same story. The Finnish study came to the conclusion the more trans fats, the higher the cognitive problems as people age. What is the takeaway message from all this? If you have the ApoE4 allele gene and you want to avoid Alzheimer's disease, then stay away from all bad fats. This of course holds also true for all those people who do not have the gene but want to stay in good mental health as they age. But don't we need some fats for proper brain function? Yes, absolutely. But those are different fats. Throw away all vegetable oils. Use virgin olive oils instead. Get some nuts and seeds daily. Exchange your cow's milk with almond milk. Replace your eggs with beans. Go for a veggie pizza with no cheese added. And eat that bacon only sparingly. And remember that even chicken without skin has lots of fats. By doing so, you have just left the high-risk group for cognitive decline and Alzheimer's disease. You cannot avoid all those foods? Don't worry, you are not the only one. How about starting a transition period where you eat only half of the bad fats? Instead of 1 glass of milk, only half a glass. Instead of half a chicken, only a small piece. Instead of 1 pizza for one, only half. Still hungry? Add plenty of non-fatty foods. This way you're halfway there.